All right. Lesson 7 of Stage 3 of the Power Playbook community under fitness. Today we're going to be talking about cardiovascular fitness for beginners, how to work on building your heart health and endurance. So, last lesson, we went through some potential opportunities for you guys to make exercises you can go through regarding weight training. And today we're going to be pairing that with cardiovascular fitness as sort of the final, here's all the things you need so you guys can start putting a routine together for yourselves and get in the gym, get your fitness game started, work on that fitness journey, and set some good habits for yourself. So with that, we'll move right into the content. First, we got an overview. Today we're going to go through cardio and heart health in general. What is it? Why is cardio essential for your heart health? How it relates to heart health. And then we're going to talk about cardio for weight management. That's kind of the common reason people like to do cardio. People love to say, well, because it's true that cardio is the way to go to lose weight, and so a lot of times that's all they'll do instead of incorporating weight training. We argue, and we'll talk about this on that slide, but we argue that cardio is best paired with weight training if you want to see optimal results as far as weight loss, but also an increase in strength. We'll talk about cardio and its mental health applications. We'll talk about the types of cardio that exist. There's low intensity versus high intensity, and then how people generally go about working those. We'll do a comparison of the two, and then we'll talk about some options for you guys starting out and moving forward as beginners. All right, I'll move my camera so you can see the picture. I'll put you right there. Okay, cardio and heart health. So, cardiovascular, what does that word mean? The cardiovascular system is actually begins with your heart. So the cardiovascular system is the way by which your heart pumps the oxygen, the blood, throughout your body. So it starts in the heart, goes throughout the body, circulates back into the heart, gets filtered, and gets sent back out. So that's what cardio is. So when you train cardio, you are essentially training the heart. And that's important to understand that the heart is a muscle. So you should treat it as such, right? Just like you would work on developing every other muscle group of your body, you need to work on developing the heart, right? Because if not, I'll point you to this reduced risk of heart disease point number 4 there. If your heart is not healthy, is not in a spot where it's made of lean tissue, it's pumping regularly, it's pumping harder. As you guys are increasing your physical output, you're putting yourself at a higher risk of heart disease. And where that comes from, like your heart attacks and stuff like that, generally is because a layer of fat builds up in the arteries and around the heart, and so a clogged artery or a clogged capillary vein around the outside of the heart and inside is where you get these heart attacks and other heart diseases. So the way around that is train your cardiovascular health. So training cardio also improves blood circulation by means of you're forcing the heart to pump harder. So obviously it's going to circulate faster and with a higher amount of pressure, which by the higher amount of pressure might sound bad. It's like, oh, I have this increased blood pressure, right? But over time, it actually lowers your blood pressure because it's forcing, it's not allowing for a buildup of plaque within your arteries to start forming due to due to an increase in food, specifically junk food, low quality food sources, high in fat and carbohydrates without the proper amount of protein. That leads to a buildup of plaque in your arteries. But a way around that is 1, change your diet, but 2, perform more cardio, do higher amounts of cardiovascular training, right? So, combination with that reduces your risk of heart disease, increases your blood oxygen levels, there's this concept we call excuse me for making all these burping noises, but anyways, it's a concept we call your VO2 max, which is essentially like how much oxygen is getting sent through your blood to your muscles as you're working out. And you want that to be, increased, right? Because you want, as you're performing the exercise, whatever it is, if you're doing cardio, obviously you might be running or doing some sort of other circuit training, but you want more oxygen flowing by means of your blood to the muscles, right? So that you are increasing your performance to an optimal state. So that's what cardio is, has to do with the heart, cardiovascular system. Cardio for weight management. So the way that this works is we talked about, if you remember back in the nutrition slides, we talked about how, let me move my camera so I'm really covering the Y there. We talked about how a calorie deficit is the way to lose weight, right? So what's an easier way? What's another way? I shouldn't say easier because it's not easy, it requires more effort, but What is another way to make sure that the amount of calories you burn in a day is higher than the amount you eat? Well, you can do more exercise, right? You can add, on top of the weight training, you can add cardio. And this is what people generally resort to when they're trying to lose weight, is by means of cardio for weight management. They are going and increasing the amount of calories they burn in a day, and therefore it boosts their metabolism. So you're actually burning more in a day than you are consuming. And so this is a way to support healthy body fat levels. It helps balance your caloric intake. Especially if you go from a state of no exercise into, now let's say that you don't exercise. I don't know how I'm trying to say this. I guess that by having a period of your day where you are exerting yourself more, it's kind of a balance between how much you're consuming. So it's easier to just, that way, here's what I'm trying to say. If you struggle with limiting the amount of food you eat, or it's like you just get hungry so often, but you still want to decrease the amount of calories compared to decrease the amount of calories you consume compared to what you burn, cardio can help balance that because, like I said, you're just adding calories that you're burning to your daily intake. It works well with weight training, cardio does, and I have endurance in parentheses there because it's this concept that we realize where by training the cardiovascular system, you are increasing your body's level of endurance to endure physical output, which can then translate to your weight training regimen so that you can endure longer sessions in the gym, right? So you can go through more repetitions so you don't just get fatigued and tired after those first two sets, right? When you pair it with cardio, oftentimes what you'll find is you'll actually see gains in both realms. As long as you're not overtraining the cardio, you're not running 10 miles a day off the start. I don't know anybody that's running 10 miles a day, and as it is, even as more advanced athletes. But anyways, if you're running 10 a day off the start, obviously you're not going to be as balanced, right? But training cardio for endurance, longer duration kind of working stuff will translate in the gym as far as your weight training regimen goes. And so that's why I have that there. Suitable weight loss with consistency. You can't just run, a mile a week and then expect to see body fat levels decrease significantly. Cardio, just like weight training, cardio is something you got to be doing consistently, a few times a week at least, sometimes every day in certain cases, if you want to see cardio be a tool for weight management. So I don't want you guys to just think of cardio as the way to lose weight, but more as a tool for weight management, right? So with that said, move on to the mental health application. So by doing cardio, we kind of talked about this in the beginning, very first slide deck about why you should worry about fitness, in that it improves cognitive ability and helps with your mental health. Cardio especially does. So when you're running and you're doing cardio, if you want to sit on a bike, run, whatever it is, your brain starts releasing endorphins as you're doing so, which is a way your body naturally reduces its stress. It improves your mood and your sleep quality, actually. You'll notice, too, that if you're exerting yourself by means of cardio throughout the day, or during the day at least once, that you'll actually sleep better because your body is exerting the energy it's consuming, and then by the end of the day, you're nice and tired, so you sleep better. It boosts energy and mental clarity after you do the activity. That kind of seems counterintuitive to what I just said about how by the end of the day you should be tired enough to sleep better. But part of the releasing endorphins in your mind is it actually boosts your mental clarity, your energy after the fact. So if you notice that if you do cardio in the beginning of the day, what you'll notice is you will start to feel more energized and less tired throughout the day than what's super common for most people, especially me, like people like me that just go to the office. It's like they wake up from laying down all night. It's just to go straight to sitting in a chair all day, right? But a way to combat that is do some sort of cardio before that, or at least it doesn't matter. You don't have to do it before your day, but you'll notice that you get a boost in energy from the cardio. It reduces symptoms of anxiety. I'm speaking too fast here. Cardio reduces the symptoms of anxiety by means of released endorphins and promotes a positive mindset. Because if you're in a state of mental clarity due to a runner's high is what they call it. Actually, that's not what they call it. A runner's high is when you've been running for so long that your body no longer feels like it can't continue, that it's just like, okay, I can keep doing this for a while. That's called a runner's high. So I had to correct myself there. But either way, an improved mood, an energy boost, reducing symptom of anxiety obviously is going to promote a positive mindset. And also just that factor of feeling like you've accomplished something. Just like we talk about with weight training, feeling like, okay, I got my cardio in for the day. That's another thing I can check off my box and feel good about myself for doing, right? So there's the application for mental health. Now let's get into types of cardio. I've broken it down into two types, which is low intensity and high intensity. Specifically, low intensity steady state. And the reason I did that is as opposed to exact exercises you can do that are considered cardio is because if you do anything long enough, it's cardio. You know what I mean? If you do anything long enough that's difficult for you, it's going to require a higher output of your cardiovascular system. So what I chose to do is just kind of identify it by the intensity put into it, if that makes sense. So LISS, acronym for low intensity steady state, it requires lower effort, but it's more sustainable over time. So if you think about that steady state, right, you're not doing it immediately and you're done really quick. It's a steady state and a prolonged amount of time, but it's low intensity, so you can sustain it, right? It's not too difficult for you, but you can do it for a while. Some examples would be walking or light cycling. If you ever been to an amusement park, that's for sure some low intensity steady state exercise, walking around all day. It's not that difficult. You might be sore by the end of the day, but while you're doing it, you can continue for a long time. Light cycling as well. That's a real common one. And I put a picture of my favorite cardio machine there on the right. But LISS tends to burn calories over an extended period of time rather than just that instantaneous kind of thing, like 10 minutes long. We'll get into that in the high intensity stuff. But this is ideal for fat loss for beginners and for recovery. So I'm going to bring up a few concepts we talked about in previous lessons, but first being nutrition, where we talked about which macronutrient is used for which energy pathway. And if you remember, if we go into the aerobic energy pathway, your body has used up the carbs it has available, and now it's transitioning into using its fat stores, right? So, but think about this. We talked about this also in that lesson, but if you haven't eaten any fat that day or any carbs, and you're going to go do a fasted session of cardio that's low intensity, nothing crazy, what else but body fat does your body have to burn as energy? So that's why people advocate for fasted cardio, meaning you haven't eaten anything. Maybe you do it first thing in the morning, because your body, unless you ate a huge meal and then went right to sleep the night before, generally your body has nothing left to digest and turn to energy besides its own fat stores. So that low intensity kind of steady state, when you're forcing the body into that aerobic energy pathway, and now it needs to burn fat stores, that's exactly how you target with fat loss through cardio, if that's your goal there. So I also wrote beginners because it's obviously not that difficult to walk on a treadmill. It takes no skill. It just takes consistency and time and effort. And then recovery too. If you remember, we talked about in the weight training slides, I believe they were, about active rest. It's this concept, right, where we don't want to just sit and be inactive and be sedentary for a period of a day, or however, if you're going to do the 5 day a week thing and then take the whole weekend off, you don't want to be just sitting around slouching, right? You want to keep that body moving. You want to keep the mobility flowing. You want to keep the blood flow in the body to promote recovery. This is a great way to do it, where you're not really asking much of the body, but you're still moving around. You're still getting that body engaged. You're still working on that fat loss, whatever it is. But that's a great thing. It's a great option along with the stretching. Oh, that's what it was. Stretching and mobility. That's the lesson we talked about, active rest. Low intensity steady state cardio is also a great thing to implement for an active recovery day. And then lastly, helps and builds endurance slowly. So, obviously if you're not, doing huge amounts of output and intensity, it's more manageable and it might take longer, but it's a great way to build a basis for yourself to build that endurance. So it translates to whatever else you're doing, whether that's weight training or just you want to get better at cardio. So good foundational stuff in low intensity. It moves us into high intensity interval training, commonly called HIIT. I think people, they kind of just classify this as like a workout in itself. HIIT is not necessarily a workout in itself. HIIT is an application for a workout. HIIT stands for, as the title mentions, high intensity interval training. So it's more, instead of that elongated amount of time, you're going for short but more intense bursts of energy. So think like your sprints, think like that exercise on the right there, your the ropes, rope swing, whatever you want to call that. More intense in the moment, but takes less time to do, and then you take a break, and then you get back into it, and that's your interval training. This increases the heart rate far more quickly than the elongated amount of time, the low intensity kind of stuff. But it's great for improving your athletic performance. If you think like a football player, I mean, football players, they obviously, they're in a game for a couple hours, right? And so they need that endurance kind of thing, what's the word we're looking for? Like a steady state kind of endurance ability. But throughout the whole thing, it's like 10-second, the average play, I think, in a football game is like 6 seconds long, whatever that amount of time is. It's not very long. It's not more than 10 seconds. I know that. So for a period of like 0 to 10 seconds, 0 to 6 seconds, whatever it is, they're going 100%. They're sprinting, right? And so if you're trying to increase your athletic performance, it then makes sense, because this is the case for most sports, right? Unless you're doing endurance stuff and you're doing a long distance, cross country, maybe swimming. But most other team sports, you're doing like short bursts of intense energy, right? So obviously HIIT would be incorporated in that kind of training regimen. HIIT, because it takes less time, is obviously more time efficient, right? You're getting a similar amount of calories burned or a similar effect of the cardio, but in less time, because it's just shorter time periods, even though it's more intense in those time periods. And then also, what you'll notice is after you've gotten your heart rate so high and you've been doing it for a while, within one training session, your heart rate is up, you're breathing more heavy. Even after you've finished, there's this concept we call, it's an acronym, EPOC. It stands for excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, which is basically just the increased use of oxygen and calories by the body after exercise. So because your heart rate is up, because you're breathing harder, like all those functions, they cost calories, right? They take energy to do so. So once you've increased the heart rate by means of high interval training, you actually will see this. They call it the afterburn effect a lot of the time, where you actually are still burning calories for like a duration of time after you finish the workout. And so people like to take advantage of that. But yeah, so now let's get into a comparison. HIIT versus LISS. LISS, steady, lower intensity, longer duration. HIIT is more higher intensity, but it's shorter intervals, less time than the LISS workouts. LISS is considered to be more beginner friendly and less fatiguing because it's less intense. HIIT is obviously more intense, so it's a little bit more efficient for your time, but it's definitely a more advanced option. And so the final word on those is you should probably use both for a balanced cardio routine. But if you're a beginner and you don't really feel comfortable just jumping right into these crazy HIIT workouts, which, by the way, like I mentioned, I think people confuse HIIT to just be a workout in itself. But what it is really is it's a type of cardio to be applied to a workout. So you can Google like HIIT workouts, and you can watch videos on like what these people are doing. This is kind of your CrossFit training idea, where you're jumping into these circuits that are like, you're going to go as hard as you can on these, a crazy amount of repetitions for this workout, then circuit over to this one, move to this one, move to this one, move to this one, rest, do it all again. LISS is more of your average. Let's hop on the treadmill and walk for like a mile or 2 miles. Let's do some light jogging. And eventually, once you've built up your cardiovascular ability, jogging a mile might become low intensity for you, because you've kind of that progressive overload concept, right? So what was once difficult for you, now that you've done it enough, is becoming easier. So you got to continuously gauge what intensity means for you, and then how you can capitalize on the effects and the benefits of both high and low intensity. So use both down the line. Start with LISS if you're a beginner. If you have no experience, incorporate some HIIT. See what you like better. See what works for you. See how they affect you. Here's some beginner workout options for cardiovascular training. Included here because obviously we're trying to take you guys from a point of no experience to a point where you can start using this stuff on your own. But some cardio options: walking and jogging, super accessible and easy to start. Obviously, very adjustable intensity. You can just, assuming you live in a safe enough place to just be outside walking around, you can, because I know some people don't have that luxury, but walking around, it's extremely easy to just walk out your front door and, just time yourself 10 minutes. I'm going to go walk. 20 minutes, I'm going to go walk. I'm going to go jog for 10 minutes. And that'll be just fine to start, right? And then there's cycling and rowing, which are considered to be low impact exercises. What that means is, like, if you think about running, you're kind of putting all your body weight for like half a second on the left side, your ankle joints, your knee joints, even sometimes your hips, and then you're kind of rotating that the entire time you run. And that's considered to, like, especially if you're maybe overweight, that can be kind of that can have an impact on your joints to be putting all that much weight with that much force as you're running. So if you're interested, you can definitely look into some cycling and rowing stuff, because that's low impact on the joints. Full body engagement especially from rowing. You might be a little confused, because when we talked about the weight training slides, rows were just pulling something to your chest, right? And that's essentially what that is. But there's rowing machines, or if you think about rowing a boat, you kind of engage the legs as well. So that's why there's full body engagement there. And obviously there's adjustable speed in those machines. Generally, you're doing cardio for low intensity stuff on a machine, a treadmill, a bicycle, a row machine. There's those like skier things. There's like the Stairmasters, stuff like that. But moving on, you can even do some jump rope and body weight circuits. You definitely can turn this is what CrossFit is essentially. You definitely can turn, those body weight exercises you're using as a foundation for weight training into a circuit for yourself that ends up being high intensity interval training. So obviously that would engage multiple muscle groups, flexible time and intensity options. All of these things are kind of just like, you could buy a jump rope for like $10 and do it at home. Cycling and rowing, you might have to go to a gym for that unless you have one of those machines in your home. But these beginner cardio options really are like, it's kind of just up to you. Like, you 100% could be doing a body weight circuit in your living room. You definitely could go walk or jog. And these are all great options to just incorporate some cardio options in your routine. And even past like the point of just being a beginner, like even I sometimes, I don't really want to sit in the gym, much longer. I want to come home, see my wife. So I'll be sure that I get the cardio in later by just walking around my neighborhood or going for a jog or maybe doing some sprints at a local park. And that's just me. But there's definitely ways to get this accomplished. It's kind of just up to you as to, what you feel like you can incorporate in your routine. And putting it all together. So now that you know about some options for cardiovascular training, why you need to be incorporating it, even if your goal is to, let me attack this first. What's a common thing and a theme for people that are trying to put on more size? Maybe in this course you feel like you've always been, labeled as the skinny guy, the skinny kid, and you want to get larger. And what you understood from our nutrition course and from our weight training course was that, I can put on size if I'm eating more calories than I burn. And so now that you're hearing that cardio is a way for weight management to ensure it stays at a certain level, and you're like, well, wait a second, should I just not be doing cardio then? Because I'm going to end up burning more calories, and I already struggle to eat enough as it is. And my response to that is always, when people ask me this, is always, yes, you should be still doing cardio. Because if you think about it, if you're doing a machine, like a low intensity machine, you can kind of roughly expect to burn about 100 calories per 10 minutes of that work. So even if for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and that equates to about 100, 150, 200 calories, you are in the gym or you are whatever it is you're doing for cardio, you're getting that training in, the results and the benefits that has as far as it translates to your overall general endurance, the blood flow, the blood oxygen levels, and the endurance in the gym as well, far outweigh the cons of having to eat an extra 200 calories a day that you do cardio. So with that said, definitely still do cardio. Maybe you don't have to do it every single day, right? Like somebody who wants to lose weight might consider, but definitely keep those sessions going. As a beginner, same thing as weight training. Aim for 3 to 4 sessions per week. Completely acceptable to combine those with your weight training regimens. So if you want some true rest days where you're kind of taking it, maybe you just go for a walk, you walk the dogs, play a little sports with your kids, your family, and you don't really want the responsibility of having to actually go to the gym on a rest day, then just combine them. Just when you're already in the gym, do your cardio. And as you continue, obviously, the concept of progressive overload still applies for cardiovascular training. So make it as difficult as you become strong, if that makes sense. as difficult as you need to, the stronger you become. Balance cardio with strength, flexibility, mobility work. Incorporate all the things we've taught you so far into building your routine. And lastly, listen to your body. If you find that you're super motivated after watching this to just go start doing some extra sprints, go start running longer distances because you feel okay doing it. What you might notice is some difficulty in joint health, or specifically shin splints. I know that shin splints are super, super common injury, and they occur. Basically, what it is like the fibers on the front of your shin start separating from bone, which sounds bad. I mean, it's not. You can get over it for sure. I've had them multiple times in my fitness journey, but partly through playing sports in high school and then also afterwards. But anyways, the reason you get those is because you start out way too intense on the sprinting or the running, and it's kind of what we talked about, that joint, that impact on the joints. As you're running and you're doing a lot more than your body is currently used to, that's sort of a reaction of the body that says, "Hey, take it down a notch," right? Is you'll start to get shin splints. So the way around that is start small and then work up big, right? You don't have to just out the gate start running 2 miles a day. You might definitely notice that you're going to develop some shin splints that way. So listen to your body, rest as you need. Keep working at it. Definitely don't just quit. But if your body says, "Hey, I'm starting to develop this issue, let's maybe take some time off, focus on how to recover from that, ice it, ibuprofen, decrease that inflammation, and then reassess." So with that is 26-ish minutes of information on cardiovascular training. Hope this was informational for you, and you guys can start implementing this in building your routines now that you have, your stretching, mobility, weight training, nutrition, a little bit of a hydration, and cardiovascular training. You guys should be pretty much set now to start thinking about how you're going to train. And with that, we will see you for lesson 8.